Oh, what a weekend.
Dude, you faked me out. I thought you were getting up to walk out of the room. But he didn't. He stayed, and we're here. We're sticking around. It's December 21st, 2020. Welcome aboard. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 436. Sponsored by 2 cups of black coffee.
That's a great topic, man.
It is a great topic. Well, coffee is always a great topic. But hey, we appreciate you tuning in. It's a beautiful day. Crisp but cool but beautiful day here in Chattanooga. We are podcasting, recording live for you in the Chattanooga C26 Club. In case you don't hear from us again, but you will, but you don't listen to it, Merry Christmas. Hope you have a happy holiday. That has kind of snuck up on me this year. But it's Friday, Christmas Eve on Thursday.
Flying by.
The year's flying by. It's taken forever. Too many good things to mention. But no, we appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you giving us the time. We know you have a lot of options in the podcast universe and also the triathlon world. So we appreciate you again giving us your time and for sticking with us this year. It's been a interesting year of sorts, and obviously if you're a triathlon related anything, with races canceled and pushback, and optimism hasn't necessarily been high. So we Mike and I just want to say thank you for sticking with us and listening to us and providing us a reason to keep on doing this and chatting twice a week for around an hour. And I know it's definitely helped us both throughout this year, being able to connect and communicate like a lot of people can't, or just don't anymore, because no one talks really. Everyone texts and messages or videos. So I know this podcast and our community have been a really awesome part of the year for us and kind of keeping things going on track. So we appreciate you. And but yeah, if it's your first time tuning in, go back. We have a lot of other podcasts for you to go back and listen to, 435 to be exact. Mike does an outstanding job of outlining those. You can pick and choose. You can start from the beginning, or you can just start here, work your way backwards, and just kind of see what happens. So we cover it all. We cover swim, bike, run specific training. We cover race recaps, race previews. Have on I shouldn't even say occasional guests, because that's not even like a truthful word. We have on guests every once in a while when we feel like it, which is rare. But we just sit back, we chat, we talk about what's going on in our own personal life, what's going on with our own training, what's going on with our athletes' training. We work with athletes around the world, mostly here in the U.S., but we have 20 to 25 athletes around the country, or around the world, that are international. We have a huge club that is growing. We have an awesome Facebook group. You can always hop in there, Crushing Iron Group on Facebook, answer one simple question. We will let you in, and right now is a great time to hop in because we're giving away goodies. We gave away some Garmin's this week, a Garmin Varia, some analysis, 6 months of coaching is going off today. Tomorrow is 3 months of meal planning with Kylie Van Horn and Fine Nutrition. We're giving back. We're doing what we love, which is connecting with our community, and hey, giving back is always more fun than receiving.
It is, man. You almost brought me to tears there in the begining.
I know, it kind of crept up on me too. I wasn't planning on going there, but wow. It kind of felt like I kind of felt compelled.
Because it's common, right? That sort of like year-end reflection, and there's just been a tough year for everybody, and the community does help us so much, and we saw that obviously firsthand this weekend, and just being able to do these podcasts and connect with so many people, it's just amazing. And I don't know, man. It's sort of a sentimental day for some reason. Sort of
Are you being sentimental?
I kind of am.
That's usually my deal, and you're always kind of, giving me a hard time about it. I will say before you start crying on air.
It's like after race weekend kind of thing.
It is. No, well, it is. It was. We had a team trail race. It's something that Mike and I decided to not put together, but we usually do like this. This year, our races were going to be Ironman Texas, Chattanooga 70.3, and Ironman Chattanooga. Obviously, we went 0 for 3 with those. We canceled a couple camps early in the year. We were able to pull off a June camp. We've done a run camp, a trail camp. We've still been able to find ways for athletes to connect. But we wanted to have something where our athletes could look forward to that had a very, very slim chance of actually getting canceled, which, trail races are pretty much on top of that list right now in terms of things that are rarely going to, even though they are, depending on what state you're in, but they haven't been here in Chattanooga, and they do a really wonderful job. And there was a bunch of people out, and they were very strict, very communicative about what to do and what not to do, so they could, and I get it, because they weren't trying to be, I think, strict for the day, but they were trying to be strict so they could continue to have these types of things and provide these opportunities for, like we had. And so we picked a trail race, and we were probably a team made up of mostly triathletes, but we like to consider everyone we work with an athlete, and we can do anything. And so we went out, we had a trail race, but about 16 or 18 athletes come from out of town to do it. And it was an awesome weekend. It was a very tough course. They had a 10K, an 18 mile, and a 50 mile option. We had athletes compete and complete in all distances. Beautiful day, cold, crisp, clear skies, and an absolutely knocker of a course. It was tough. I meandered my way through the 18 miler and added on a couple extra miles, a couple on purpose, a couple because I got lost. But all said and done, it was an awesome weekend, and it was just refreshing, I think, to see. I think very few athletes that we had that did it as like a race. They did it as an experience. Yeah. Which is something that I am such a fan of, because we get wrapped up so much in the seriousness of competition and doing something to best ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great. And that's why we do this, for the most part. But as I was running with another athlete, and he made a comment about something and about going on ahead or doing something else. And I said, this year we've done enough stuff alone. Like we've done enough things by ourselves this year, and a lot of our athletes took that opportunity to run with their friends and stop and take pictures and just have a hard and challenging, but experience with people that, they love and care about, which is, the people that we have in our community. And so it was really awesome to see. And then quite a few of us came back to the finish line rather, at night to watch, the 50 milers finish. And I'll sit here and tell you, people who choose to do the 50 and the 100 mile, these crazy races, they don't do it for the finish line. I'm just going to sit here and tell you, they don't do it for the finish line, because there was probably 30 people there. And most people are really only getting excited for their person across the finish line because they're like, it was cold, and it's dark, no lights, you're waiting for the headlamp to come out of the dark forest and be like, I wonder if that's our guy or our girl. And like, then they announce a name, then you run up and you cheer them on. And there's no like post-race hoopla, because they're like, I'm freezing cold. I hurt so bad. Get me out of here so I can go soak in a bathtub and, eat pizza. They don't do it for that, but but you do it for yourself. And I just think it was a great example. And, there were some athletes had emotions that just kind of bubbled over, and it was awesome. It has been a hell of a year. And I think part of why I think a lot of people are getting emotional right now is I was reading through Training Peaks comments this morning, and I think it's being emotional, but also people are starting to begin to feel the weight, of the year. I think a lot of it has to do with just the dates on the calendar, because, and this happens a lot with people in training too, is once you kind of let off the gas, you can kind of start to feel things. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of people, is you've kind of seen the year coming to an end. Like if it was June or July, people would be like, yeah, this year sucks, but we got a ways to go. we got to keep on holding strong. We got to keep persevering. We got to keep our wits about us. We got to keep being resilient. We got this, and kind of keep on that, just kind of the straight and narrow, eyes forward. No reason to whine. No reason to kind of, complain. We're just going to have to buckle down and just get it done. But now that kind of the quote unquote end is near, even though it's not just another day on the calendar, people are kind of letting not their guard down, but I think they're taking their foot off the gas of being not resilient, but I think it does. Things bubble up, and the year has kind of, as it is coming to an end, and it just makes you kind of feel things that you have probably been trying to submerge for the last 11 months, because it is kind of hard to believe it's kind of been a whole year. And as I remember, look back and think like February and March, and was like, what? Has it been a whole year? Like, it's just kind of insane to think about, but also a great year to reflect on.
Yeah, I mean, when they canceled March Madness, I was like, well, okay, let's get through this, whatever. And like you're saying, man, it's December, the end of the year, and we're still, dealing with cancellations and whatnot. And just to go back to the finish line, and I know these 50 milers, and that is for you and the whole thing like that. But the race planner wannabe in me was like, went out to dinner with Mark last night, and he did the 50, and we were talking about it. I was like, man, in reality, I think it could be really cool if they set up a race like this, and it actually, like, you started up there, but you finished downtown. Like if they started with a shuttle, and it kind of finished sort of like maybe even where Ironman finishes along the Greenway or something. Somehow they get you back there. And, because I think a lot more people would come. It could be more of a festive thing,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's really the point of these races. Probably not, but it just seems like it could be kind of a cool idea, where you could set up more of a.
Is this a pitch to be a race director?
Well, I'd like to be on the committee, maybe if they invite me.
Board of directors.
People are like, oh, screw those guys. But no, it's just I'm always thinking about that, and because it's to be out there and that and what he sent me a picture. It was total Blair Witch, man. It was like he just has a phone picture with his headlamp shining in the trees, and it was blurry, and
it's nothing. There's nothing. I mean, it was
represents my brain at that moment.
Right. It's just pitch black. Right. There's no city lights. There's no city glow. There's nothing. It's just pitch blackness. And while I agree with you to an extent about some of these races having bigger finish lines, some of them end at like stadiums, so they can have like the lights on and have people there. They're on like a track or whatever. Some races start the night before, so you have a better chance of finishing in the daylight, which more people might come. And it was a fairly small race, in general. I think it was like 250, 300 people overall, all three distances, and even less doing the 50, and then even less that even finished the 50. But I think there is, and I think you'd probably actually agree with me in that, while the hoopla is great and it's energizing and you feel it great in the moment, I think there's also a lot to be said for, here I am, I made it, I just did it. Like, because you did it with no extra help. Like, like we had some people had pacers, some people did, but you're doing 50 miles by yourself. Like the last 10 miles in total darkness, freezing cold, super tired. You're doing it by yourself anyway, but to be able to accomplish something of that magnitude and to do it by yourself, and even I think it shows how differently motivated. That's not the right way to say it, but how different we can all be motivated in different ways. Some people need and crave and want the big red carpet, the big finish line, the 1,000 cheering fans, the beating on the boards next to it, like you get the feeling at Ironman, that used to be Ironman Louisville. And then you have people who just are internally motivated and moved and committed to do something. And if people are there, great. If people aren't there, that's fine. It's more about the accomplishment and what they just proved to themselves that they can accomplish. And one of the things I love the most about these kind of events is that there really is no bar of expectation to compare yourself against. It's just, I did it. It wasn't, compared to last time, it's because every course, every condition, saying this course was different than last year because they couldn't get permits for to run parts in Tennessee. So they did a whole different course this year than last year. I thought it was tougher, much less runnable, harder in the dark. And so you can't compare it. It's just, I did it. I gave my best, and I can't believe I was just able to do something like that on my own. I just think there's a whole lot of good things you can take from that can prepare you better in the future for different athletic events, and it shapes you as a person. Like that's what we talked about it, I think Monday or last Thursday, rather Friday. And that's why people gravitate towards, I think, endurance events. Not that the 400 meter can't shape you, not that that's not going to change your life, but that the experience and the growth and the process and the resiliency and the things you have to overcome while participating in long, marathons, ultras, endurance, like 50 miles, 100-mile events, 70.3s fulls, like the journey itself is transformative. And then sometimes you end up doing a race and it changes who you are. It changes your belief system. It changes the thoughts you have about yourself, and you're able to be a different person when that next day comes. And there aren't a lot of sports that offer that to people.
Yeah. What's that saying? There's a saying that's something like, what matters most is what you do when people aren't watching.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that thing, it's sort of like, yeah, we can all, and I'm the red carpet type of guy, so, but you're right, because when you're out there running in those hills and there's no glory, even though, as we said last podcast, I'm out of shape, and I was you guys, kind of talking me into doing the 10K, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. Maybe it'll be a race morning decision, a game time decision. I got up that morning and I was like, I don't know yet, but I dressed in my running clothes just in case.
So you knew you were doing it.
I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
But I walked up on it and did it, and did the 10K. And there's kind of a funny story. I haven't shared it with you yet. Because I had just the day before did the 3 miles in zone 2, and I was kind of like, it didn't feel very good, and I was like, I'll go do a 10K tomorrow and in the hills and whatever. And how everybody started under the arch and then kind of ran along a road or whatever, and then went out and then took that left and went down into the trails, right? Yeah. Well, when we started, they didn't have anybody at the turn left place, or somebody was there, but they didn't know what was going on, so they made us turn right. So we went through the area where you kind of just before you finish, that little wooded area before you come out. Yeah. We ran through there, and I'm like, oh, this is good. This is a nice little trail. And we came out and then ran right through the finish line again. And everybody I was like, what?
They're like, this is the best marked 10K ever.
I was like, what do we do? Oh, we're just, because I didn't look at I was like, okay. I didn't look at the course. Maybe it's just loops of that,
Maybe a couple, maybe 18 loops.
And I'm walking, but we're running through there, and all the volunteers are kind of like rolling their eyes going, I don't know what's going on either. Like the whole field of 10Kers ran through the finish line, like right away. It was like maybe 0.3 mile loop. And then we got out to that area again where we were supposed to turn left. And by the time I got there, everybody went right again. But there was a woman running out of their car going, no, you got to go left. And so I was the first one to go left. So I was leading.
You were leading the pack. Oh, Jesus.
I was out in front, and everybody else had gone away maybe a couple hundred yards, the leaders, the fast people. And it crossed my mind. I'm like, did they just give me the gift?
Is today the day?
Can I go after this right now? And so for about 500 yards, I kind of put my head down. And
you're better than me, because you know what I would have thought? I've been like, you know what? I'll push it for a little bit longer, then I'll just kind of pull up and be like, well, I was leading the race around mile 1.5, 2, and I got a hammy and decided to actually pull out.
I was so bummed I didn't have my phone because I was pull it out. I'm leading the race right now, And but yeah, about 500 yards after that, I started hearing like those antelope through the leaves, and I was like, here they come. Trying to avoid them. But that was kind of funny. I thought, I was like, man, can I pull this off? No way, dude. I could barely make it 3 miles.
But you made it. You made it what, 9?
No, I got lost too. So I went 8.2. I ran a 10K 8.2.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
But I did have a valid thought out there, though, I think. First of all, we could talk about that if you want, my running style, which always rips my hamstrings, which means what you thought I was probably leaning back. But one of the things I did have was like, okay, I know this race is going to be a little long because we ran a little long in the beginning. So I'm thinking, so I'm going to, at mile 5, I'm thinking, I'm going to, see if I can close it. And I started closing at mile 5, and I had 3 miles.
3 miles left.
But it was because it was like, I was a little emotional on that start line too, because that was my first race since Ironman Wisconsin over a year ago. And I hadn't lined up on any start line or anything like that. And I was feeling, like this is pretty cool to do. And then, but when I put that down, I felt like I had it, right? It was sort of like I was rekindled in this thing of, you do Ironman races and you have to suck it up and you have to just power through. And I hadn't really done that for like a year. So I really felt pretty strong, and I was kind of pulling out there ways, and I'm getting closer to that 6.2 mile mark, and I could pull up on a guy, and we just happened to be at the bottom of the mountain at that point. I'm like, man, we're not really at the finish line here. No. And I came up alongside him. I'm like, hey, were we getting close? Maybe like a half mile or something? And he goes, no, it's probably more like a mile or whatever. So and then it ended up being like 2 miles. But I still had it. It was interesting. I hurt at the end, but it was a good hurt.
Well, that's the thing about trail running and trail racing, is that with the terrain being so unpredictable and a lot of times not necessarily runnable, you can't pace it as in I'm going to drop my pace and negative split. You have to actually think of it as an effort move, because a lot of races that you participate in, you don't even know what the end's going to be like unless you've had like the unique opportunity to be able to do the entire course, which most people don't. The last 3 or 4 miles could be straight uphill and super rocky, so you're never going to actually increase your pace. The only goal is to actually increase your effort to maintain pace, which in all long distance running is like this anyway. It's all about who slows down the least. It's not about how fast you go, and that's kind of the message we send to our athletes. And it's a very very similar message for athletes, and no matter what race it is, long distance, short, especially long distance race, it's not about how fast you go, but you slow down. And that's kind of the mentality you have to use in trail racing, whether it's 26, 50, 100. it's you kind of take advantage of the parts you can that are runnable, but also be prepared to raise your effort so you can just maintain the best speed possible to move forward with. But I think trail racing and trail running is a great overall experience for people in terms of, you know, just getting out of your comfort zone and trying out something different. And just being able to kind of get out, especially because running and racing, especially on the road, is it's all about pace and time and comparison. And when people go out and they leave and they hit the trails, they can't necessarily do that because you're always, listen, if you've never trail ran before, then I think it's important to understand, like, if you're going to go out there to enjoy the day. Go out there to push yourself. Make sure you know to go out there and do it by effort. Totally disregard the pace that you're in and just be ready to have fun, hit the dirt. While also at the same time, don't stare at the scenery because you're going to end up kind of, you know, biting your face or, you know, hitting your teeth on the route in front of you. So, you know, go out there, enjoy it. It's a great strength workout. It's a great for, you know, effort and just overall agility, which I think a lot of triathletes and a lot of actually road runners don't have the greatest agility or east to west movement. So it's actually a great strength workout and working the part of your lower limbs that you aren't necessarily accustomed to using.
Yeah, and you get that glute work too.
You do get some my glutes and my quads today. All right, I woke up yesterday. Again, like I meandered my way through and did like a little over about 22 and a half with like 3,300 feet of climbing, and my feet were sore. You know, that night I was good.
I figured you'd be pretty good.
And I woke up yesterday and I was like, yeah, I'm not too bad. Made the worst mistake ever.
No.
Sat all day.
Watching the Dolphins.
No, we did beat the Patriots. So, but no, my mom was in town. We did Christmas and stuff, but I just kind of laid around. And I woke up this morning to come downstairs and get the coffee, and my quads are like, see, you should have done easy spin yesterday. You should have swam. You should have done something to kind of flush it out. So I'm definitely a little bit stiff today, just because I think the mileage and the time on your feet was a little bit different. But yeah, again, if you haven't done a trail race, get out there and do one. Just have fun, or go run trails. And it's outstanding cross training for you to do as an athlete. So, I mean, I'm sure we could talk more about trail running and trail racing for the next, 35 minutes, or we could talk about, or I could put you on the spot. Can I put you on the spot?
Yes, you can.
The year has been long. The year has been tough. What is the one thing that you will most remember about this year as either your podcast host or triathlon related?
Podcast host or triathlon related?
Yeah, just working with athletes and the community.
Man, I hate to say it, but
great. I'm getting ready to edit
no,
this.
but I mean, like, well, I guess the thing that I have to remember or that sticks out to me is just the resilience that we've had with it all.
Stealing my line. This is unbelievable.
Oh, really?
No, go ahead.
It's because, I mean, frankly, if I'm quite honest, it's been I know it's been tough for everybody. I've really taken it tough. The hardest part for me was like the move and the idea that socialization has been stripped from our lives. And I've been kind of a little bit angry about that.
You're an extrovert. You like to talk to people.
I'm introvert, extrovert. Certainly. Yeah. I mean, like, and this is a small thing, but just at that race in the morning, I'm kind of walking around, everybody's wearing a mask. I know people, or maybe you do, or I'm new in town. I'm like, hey, you guys, I want to talk. And I feel like people just close in, man. So they, and I'm not blaming anybody, but it just feels like it's sort of like, and they're at the beginning saying, hey, when you finish, please leave, and those kind of things really hit my heart, man. It's like, because I feel like it's the community of, especially trail running, they're like, they
Very
like hanging out
yeah.
and cooking out on the fire and, having a beer or whatever. And like, I just felt like it was like, oh, okay, well, what is this really even a thing? Of course it was, but so that's been a really difficult thing for me. And the fact that we have kept it going and, we've still had people coming in limited numbers and things like that. And we've kind of figured out ways to keep rolling. And it's like, I try to stay optimistic with it, and I will continue to be that way. But talk about yours. No, the resilience.
No, I think I'll go into mine, but I think I think that's been one of the hardest parts for a lot of people. Even the introverts, I'll be honest, I don't know what I am. I don't know if I'm an
You're
introvert or an
extrovert.
extrovert. Yeah, I'm a little bit of. I'm a little
We
bit
all
of both.
need it,
I'm
man.
like
It's
salt
like
and
the
pepper.
energy of it.
It is. It is. And
It's what these podcasts do. Like we could sit around, being quiet all day, working just on our laptops and stuff, and then we sit down and force feed a conversation.
Yeah.
It matters. I'm a different level of awake after these things.
No, I think to your point before I go into mine, I think you captured a very high ranking, but a very predominant feeling that a lot of athletes had this year was that I don't think, triathlon is often labeled as a individual, selfish, isolating sport.
Mm-hmm.
You do it alone, you train alone, you race alone, and the rest of it's kind of like whatever, and I think this year has really, really shown athletes who have maybe previously thought of themselves that way, or even thought about triathletes or triathlon as a sport that way, that they do in fact gain energy and happiness and grow and feel comforted by having either accountability or just knowing that other people are around to, even if it's to share in the same crap, you still would rather be rolling around in the crap with somebody else and rolling around alone.
Yeah.
And I think and I saw this, kind of firsthand as a coach, athletes that would, we were able to have a few camps and do things as best we could with the number of people that we could. And in our camps have never been, they're about fitness and learning things and performance, whatever. But if you've been to one, you come back, like you do it for the people. And that's basically, what they do. And they come back. And this year, everyone said when they left camp and they gave feedback that was just what I needed. I needed to see people. I needed to be around people. I needed to feel that energy. I needed to feel alive again. And because I think sometimes that we get caught up so much in our own thoughts that we kind of eat ourselves alive, to an extent, because we don't have the opportunity besides, and obviously, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, you and I are very lucky in the fact that, we have this. We were able to converse, twice a week for an hour each time, outside of even, the conversations we have, off there. And not many people have that. Not many people have that opportunity, depending on how they live or where they live, what state you're in, what job you have, if it's virtual, is it non-virtual, you have kids or not kids. Like a lot of things I think have again, bubbled up to the surface for so many people this year, which is why I think you'll see the trajectory of people's lives change drastically going forward, because I think a lot of things that we may have either taken for granted or saw as unimportant in our lives, now that we have been, I don't want to say it's been stripped from us, but I think the parts of our lives that we find have become the most important. I think for a lot of people, it probably looks very different than it had when we've been, I think a lot of people, you've been living a life that seems very ordinary and very set in stone and very fine. You're just kind of doing your life and it seems okay. And you're like, I have no complaints. It's just kind of going. And then when you either have things given to you or have things taken away, you're trying to find strength and happiness, and different things come to light. And you're like, maybe this doesn't make me happy. Maybe this is what does. And I need that. And you kind of, put yourself in a different situation or a different category, and you want different things. And so you become someone different. And so I think you've seen it. I've seen it with, I saw it with you, and I saw it with a lot of athletes. We need each other. I think that's just like, that's in the world and social media and applications and everything is like, it's doing our best to obviously remake, and neither one of us could complain, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do without, online, without being able to online, coach and do things. So we're very thankful for that, but there is no substitute for human interaction. And that has been, I think, one of the hardest pieces this year for a lot of athletes.
Yeah, no question, man. Well, I think there was a couple times or several times this week when we went out to dinner or lunch or whatever, and we were just talking, and that communication cannot be underplayed, because I've always I started listening to Joe Rogan's podcast long time ago, and he always said that the reason he loves what he does and the reason he thinks that the podcast became so popular is because he got right across from somebody. It was you can't just get up and walk away. You can't. He makes no phones. Nobody can look at their phone. It's just like a one-on-one, dialed-in conversation that connects. And I think that connection is what we need. And I keep thinking about like triathletes, and some of us are. We have that like extrovert introvert thing going on, but I do think that we have to get it out of our system. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, it brings anxiety to be around groups and things like that. I think everybody sort of has that once. It's like, and I was talking to a guy last night. He's like, man, I hope this doesn't all just come back in a big, wave of events and stuff going on, because I think people would be like unprepared to, like, something going on every night and every day and every weekend, and all these things are happening so fast. And I kind of do hope it comes back gradually, and I'm sure it will. But, the idea of, sort of like race weekend, any race weekend, right? Because there's a lot of people that kind of, I like hanging around, and like we've always talked about, like making the Ironman weekend like last till Tuesday or whatever. So you can have that whole day and talk about the race and, your battle scars and whatever and like that. But there are a lot of people that like just get done and go home. It's sort of like, I needed this so bad, but now it makes me appreciate what is at home.
Yep.
And it's just like getting it out of your system. And I think that's what training is in a way. It's sort of like, I need to do this. I need to go for a long ride right now. And then by the time that long ride is getting over, it's like, okay, now I can get back and pay more attention to my family. Or like you start getting those thoughts, like, you know what I mean? It's like we all need an escape, but it makes us realize that we need to go back and do something a little bit different. And I think that's a process that repeats itself over and over. And we slowly but surely, hopefully, connect with who we really are and what we really want.
Man, you're going deep today. I don't know what happened to you over the weekend, but I like this. I'll say, for me, I've been coaching for a long time, and I think any coach would tell you that this has been the strangest, hardest year of, their coaching, career, if you will. I think the thing I'll take away the most from this year is how absolutely important it is for athletes' mental health to be able to exercise. I work with so many different types of athletes and so many different athletic levels, and some are, incredibly performance oriented, some are goal oriented, some are, just like to stay in shape and be healthy. And then working with athletes that work in all different fields of their professional lives, and to hear and to watch, especially, in February, March, April, and even May, when so many people were just shut in or no one's going anywhere, like how much a 30-minute run could do for someone's life and do for someone's day, that it was the only thing that they felt like they had control over, that was something that gave them energy, that they could go out and be happy and not have to worry about and watch the news and, read the next article and how bad things were going to get and how worse, we're all going to be and how difficult everything is. And, it's like everywhere you go, you can't really escape it. You can't even do anything to get information anymore without being, thrown, just chaos at you. And so it was very, I honestly felt that obviously, when all the races are getting canceled and basically everyone was throwing the towel for the whole entire year and like no one's racing this year. He said, no one's racing in 2021. No one's racing in 2022. I can't even fathom races going on. You have all this. You weren't coaching athletes for immediate performance with racing, which is what most coaches do. That's what we do. Like we there's always a race coming up. There's always something. But at that point, the greatest gift you were giving your athletes was just providing them structure and accountability. And that was it. It was just somebody was there to put those in, so they had something every day that they could see in their training peaks, on their spreadsheet, whatever it was, that this is this one thing that I can do today that no one can take from me, that cannot be robbed, that I can actually disassociate, disengage with, and just do something for me. And I genuinely believe that exercise and fitness, and not with the athletes that I coach per se, but that I think it saved people's lives this year, the ability to train and exercise and stay focused, because I also know how absolutely devastating and traumatic and difficult this year has been to athletes' mental and emotional health. I mean, there was a period for me, I don't know, maybe, I think it was April. I think I mentioned it on the podcast before, back when we were, when everyone was quarantined. I remember, I want to say it was May or June, that I remember sitting upstairs in my bed and I was reading through Training Peaks comments, and it was at night, and I was home alone, and I just I read a specific comment, and I just burst into tears. I just lost it. It was very hard to read, but it had been days and weeks and months of, because the athletes that we work with, I'm very blessed in that, they're very open and honest in their communication, how they're really feeling. And I think athletes tend to see their training log, and I have to remind myself of this sometimes too, is it's not my training log, it's theirs, and so they put in there what's good for them because they always want to go back and read it. And during that really difficult period, and it's still hard to an extent, is they're putting how hard their life was in. So you had to read it wasn't about how their run or their ride, no one was swimming, but it wasn't about those two things. It was about how freaking difficult life was. And to hear them voice those things, and it made you appreciate life, and it made you appreciate your opportunity. But it was just an accumulation of how difficult it was for people. And to be able to while trying to remind myself that you're doing a good job with, providing this outlet for athletes to have, it's you can't help but feel that there's just not enough, to be done, and to help, and to provide other, to provide people with, the opportunity to just kind of get their way out of it. Because, a lot of it's also just a personal thing. I've been through some, pretty rough shit in my life. So I know when I read a certain thing, or someone shares a specific feeling or emotion, I probably have one of those experiences or thoughts in my head that I can go back and think, I remember what that feels like.
Yeah, you can identify.
I can identify. I remember what that feels like. I remember what it's like to feel that. I think that was actually what I felt in that moment. It was reading it and thinking, I was kind of taken back to 2003 or 4 when I had a really bad experience in my life, and it immediately came up, and I was like, God, I remember how excruciating that pain was. And so that you think about your athlete also having that excruciating feeling, and you can't do anything. It's just you feel helpless and in pain at the same time. But it was also, as the year progressed, and you saw people kind of rally behind their training and their focus, and yeah, a race is getting canceled and whatever. People can think you're whining, but this stuff's important to people. It saves people's lives. There shouldn't be any argument that, physical fitness and being able to be accountable and keep yourself in shape, it does good things for you, does great things for your mental and emotional health. It began to, I think, resurrect people out of the hole that they found themselves in with the pandemic and quarantine and isolation, and people with families being trapped inside, it kind of feels that way, trapped inside your house with your kids, and you can't go anywhere, and it's fun for a little bit. And even I was like, we're going to do a lot of fun things. I'm like, I was planning on doing this for a month. I wouldn't plan on doing this for 4. I've got a totally different attitude now. And then you also see people who live totally 100% alone, who were stuck inside with just themselves. I mean, you have Maddie, but that was, the same thing with you for a while. It's you're a huge thing. You're living alone, and there's
a new development. I was the only person in this big,
it's just
The Shining,
right? Right. And it was hard. It's just hard. But I think it also, I think it allowed athletes to really shift, and I hope it stays, is shift their change in perspective and the seriousness that we like to put behind our intent with racing and performance, and how we judge ourselves. And, we look at, what we're able to accomplish in the sport and just stay healthy. And even with races canceling, we had so many athletes continue because I think we even said this on, last Friday. It was that's just kind of who they are. No matter what, they're just going to get on and do it. It doesn't have to be a race on the calendar. It's who they are and what they do, and it gives them comfort to have that peace in their life. And obviously, swimming was taken away, and the people who love to swim, that was a huge deal for them, to have that time, because swimming for so many people, you get in the water and, you can solve the world's problems. In the pool, you do 2,000 meters, and you're like, I feel like I just had 3 brand new inventions. I could write a book, and I could probably, solve, global warming. That's what you do. So it was and we could talk about it for, 20 hours probably.
This will be our first 3-hour podcast.
Our first year of podcast. But yeah, I think that's what I took the most out of it, was just that, and we coach, both in a I don't want to say a holistic way, but we very much care about the people that we work with. And I think that's also been one of the harder parts of this year. And that's, I think, one of the things that when you get into coaching, you're told not to, or a lot of professions, you're told not to be friends with the people that you coach, and that you're, because it is a business relationship or whatever. But I find that 100% impossible. And I also find it incredibly uninspired. And I can't imagine scrolling through, as painful and, to be honest, and as painful and as hard as it was at so many times this year to read so many things and actually have a feeling and a thought behind it. I can't imagine working with a sheet of individuals to where I didn't actually give a shit about how they were doing in life and how they were doing. It shaped a lot of what we do now in terms of a weekly email, of sharing, and a Zoom call, of connecting, and like it changed how we do things. And I think it changed it for the better, and it's something that I will forever be grateful for.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait, who's getting deep?
So,
I mean,
listen,
you just took it.
You don't ever have to.
You don't ever have
to. I don't know. Whatever, man.
Well, I'm just.
You know me. I'm a soft.
I know now, but you opened some things up there, like with the idea of coaching, right? You know, it's sort of or whatever it is. You know, I was talking to like a friend of mine up in Nashville when you go to visit somebody for a day or something, and you just like want to squeeze everything out of it you can, and then you kind of walk away sometimes, and you're like, man, did we do that, you know, as best we could or whatever? And I think as a coach, sometimes you just want to kind of always be there and give more and more and more and more, and you feel like you're never giving enough. You know what I mean? But you have to. We all have to, as humans and as coaches and what have you, or parents, I guess. You have to understand that, like, at some point, they have to do it, you know, too. You know, it's like, I just, because the other day, yesterday, actually, after the race, a couple athletes came in and they wanted to sit in the Normatec booths, and I came down and we were just hanging out for like 2 minutes. And I think what was a homeless guy came in and he was trying to sell us some stuff, and it was just like, oh, okay. And we're just hanging out. And but I saw it, like, I looked at that whole thing as a compassionate situation, because I was like, man, you know, it's got to be, you know, it's tough for everybody right now, but to maybe be living on the streets and trying to like survive and stuff like that. So, you know, I gave him a couple bucks or whatever, but we walked outside, and then I just was talking to him. You know, I just wanted to talk to him and connect, right? And I think that's what a lot of times what is missing. And then, so we talked for maybe 5 minutes, and then he kind of went on his way, and I watched him kind of like, he looked like he was suffering from an injury or something, limp up the street, right? And I just was like, I wanted to go out there and just like be more, but you can only do so much, I guess. But I feel like sometimes that weight sort of kind of creeps into us as people, as humans, and we wish we could do more, and it becomes our own struggle. You know what I'm saying? I was like,
no, dude, I feel you on every level of that. Like this time of year I think it's the weather. I think it's just the time of year. Like I think it's very symbolic. I think the more grateful you are, when you're feeling very, you know, like I'm very grateful for the life that I have, and the, you know, even though the year's been tough, like that we're, you know, you and I are able to sit here and do this, you know, still, and have not just, you know, our podcast isn't a business, but, you know, we're still here, and a lot of people aren't. They gave up or they walked away, and we made it. And so I get very thankful, and, you know, it kind of starts off with Thanksgiving, which, you know, again, it's the greatest holiday ever. And, you know, and I just have a lot of gratitude that's kind of seeps through my body. And, but no, I this time of year, I always feel like I feel a level of guilt to an extent.
Yeah.
That I am not doing enough. That I feel like I could do more. Like we had a big group here on Friday night, and, you know, last time we had an event, I woefully underordered pizza, and we went from Southside Pizza, and we just like went through it in like 2 seconds. So this time I was determined to not.
You nailed it.
And I overdid it by a solid amount. And we had like 2 gigantic pies left. You know, and so we thought, hey, you know, let's not, you know, you and I don't need it. We don't need to take it home with us. You know, there's nothing we can do with, you know, freaking pizza. It's going to sit there and throw it out. So we decided, I ran it up to the community kitchen, which is back close to our old office, and just pulled up in front, got out of the truck, and there's, I don't know, probably 20 people outside because the inside was full. And I just walked up with them and just sat it down and said, hey, it's still warm. And just kind of saw, you know, these people who were living on the streets, and they just walked up to it and they weren't even like emotional. It was just kind of like they said thank you or but it was like you could just kind of tell that their spirit was just kind of robbed from them, and that it was almost impossible to be happy,
Right.
because and then all you could feel was like I didn't even feel good. Like I felt like I knew that was the right thing to do, but I felt like it was it wasn't enough. It wasn't. I didn't feel like I shouldn't have done it. I just feel like what else am I not doing right now that I shouldn't be doing? And so all I could think about was like why, not why are you not doing more, but like what else can you do? And yeah, you're totally right in that there is only so much you can do, right? You can't just give away all your money and all your personal items to everyone all the time. That's not how it works. But I do think there is a happy medium, and we're doing that to an extent with our giveaways for the Christmas. And, it's been like really fun to text the people who nominate these people and be like, hey, you get to be an elf. And they get to call somebody randomly who has no idea and be like, hey, we're gonna, our team in the pocket, we're gonna send you a free Garmin watch. And they're like, what? And it's more fun to tell them they can do that than do it yourself, because
Right.
you're letting someone else participate in the process of giving back, and it brings joy all around. So instead of us giving it straight to someone and bringing joy to two people, we brought joy to three people because we let someone else do it for us. And that is something that I love. And I think first of all, who the hell knows where we're going with this podcast? And frankly, I don't care. And no, I get it. You always feel personally that there's more that we could do. And there's a lot of struggle out there. And I think it's going to continue to be highlighted through the next, 3 to 6 monst to a year. And there's always people out there. And I think it just comes down to like, don't just not take for granted, like, yeah, the year's been tough. And frankly, I just hate freaking saying it, because this isn't even the toughest year that I've ever had in my life. Every year is hard. Every year has its challenges, but there are so many people out there that could use your help, that could use an extra jacket, an extra something to keep them warm, something that could help other people and bring them happiness, or just bring them, a roof over their head or clothing on their back. Like I think we live in America where we tend to, I think, overcomplicate and over sensationalize our struggles, in that we are incredibly, incredibly blessed. And I know I would 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, I would 100% be one of those people on the street that was homeless, that was struggling, if I didn't come from a capable family that was willing and able and financially, secure enough to send me to a place where I could get help to, and yes, I had to do the work on my own, but I had to get in the door, and not everyone has that,
Yeah.
and I think sometimes I feel guilt, and that's, I think, some of the reason why, this time of year, not this time of year, but like when you see people struggling, I picture myself like that could 100% be me if I wasn't privileged enough to have had that opportunity. In that, but so many times, like you were talking about with a person, the homeless guy here today, it was like, these people have no one to talk to. And I think that is one of the scariest things I think about life, is running out of people to share life with and talk to and communicate with. And because it can bring you out of the darkest days, and it can provide you the most sunshine, is just a freaking conversation, with someone, or buying someone a cup of coffee and listening to them, and doing something for them that you think, because I think we just have a different, there's stereotypes. Some people who are in that position, like, oh, well, they got themselves there. They just don't want enough to get out of there. Like we were eating, I don't know, maybe a month ago at State of Confusion, which is one of our favorite restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And back when it was warmer outside, and a guy, you could tell he's probably a homeless guy, came strolling through the back. You could tell he was going in to use the shower, or not the shower, but use the restroom.
Right.
And there was an ad come across the TV screen about senior help and benefits for people who are homeless. And he like raced to get his pen and paper out of his jacket to like write the number down, and in the commercial like was gone, and it was just, so he didn't get it. So he went to the restroom. I got up with Hayden, because Hayden used the restroom. He was in there washing his face, wasn't bothering anybody, doing whatever, and he ended up Hayden and I ended up walking out with him, and I just said, hey, why don't you come with me? And I took him down the street to the was it TJ's Mart right there on the corner right there next to Need Loves.
Yeah.
And I said, just get whatever you want. But I'm not buying you beer or cigarettes. And he said, I don't need that. I said, I need a lock, I need a shave, I need some candy, basics. And he was very appreciative. But you look at people and you think like, and it felt good during the moment. Then you thought like, well, like that's it. Like that's all you can do. But I just think collectively as people and as a human race, like if we continue, if we just stop focusing on how rough our personal year has been or how rough our life is, and we start appreciating how rough it isn't and how wonderful it is, that we can do a lot more with our energy instead of complaining and poo-pooing and just whining, frankly, about how hard life is and how terrible this pandemic is and how, believable we feel some of, the restrictions that have been placed on us, and feel like, there's probably a whole lot of thoughts that go into people's lives that are restricted to trying to find the warmest vent on the street to sleep on, and that is and that's, this isn't a podcast about triathlon anymore, and it probably wasn't when we started, but I think it's important for everyone to know that like that's something that's very important for I think us all to do as a community, as our community of Crushing Iron, listeners and our athletes our athletes do an amazing job of that already. They give back like more than you could ever ask. You don't even have to ask. They just kind of do it. We were giving away a Garmin watch, and an athlete was like, hey, I want to give away one too. Just don't tell anybody it's me. Just make somebody else's day. Bradley pitched in earlier in this year to cover the costs for people who couldn't afford coaching because their plane was dropped. But they send people to camps for free. There are so many wonderful people out there. I hope that, if you're listening and you haven't maybe thought about it or found the right opportunity to extend, the won't even say blessings or the gifts that you've been given in life. I think it's important to go back and think of how incredibly grateful and thankful that we all are to still be here and doing what we're doing. And while in the moment it seems like life might be impossible or life might be terrible, we're probably going to look back in 5 or 6 years and there might be something else, but I think we'll look back and be able to think, or hopefully see that we did some good. And I hope everybody takes that here. And instead of finishing off the year with, how horrible it's been and the weight of the terribleness of the year and how impossible it's felt, that we can end the year with going out with some good. Yeah.
Well, I just, as you were talking there, it kind of occurred to me that I think sharing optimism or creating optimism is a good thing like that in the sense of excuse me. And to kind of wrap it back around to the trail running.
That ship has sailed, dude.
Well, no, because like I keep thinking of like, what if you're out there and you're like, you decided to do a trail race like that, and I'm just starting with the 50 miles or whatever, but like let's say you signed up for that thing but you didn't know how far it was, and there was no aid stations, and you had to keep going. And you just kept going. But like, if there's an aid station at mile 18, that's like, okay, I've got, a little reprieve here. I'm going to regroup and connect and fuel up and all that kind of stuff. But we're like, what if you're going to, thinking about life where there's no, like, you don't even know where the finish line is. And it's just sort of this bad place that you're in. And, the whole race is this thing where at some point somebody might come out and say, yeah, you're done. But until then, how do you keep going? You know what I mean? And I think about that when we talk about like people like, especially living on the streets or even not, man, like people deal with like, I just think that, sometimes a good listen to somebody, if you give them your ear and, you can connect with them, that gives them, like lets them say what's on their mind, or it sort of like gives them an optimism, and those are the things that we need. We need little breaks of hope or something like that. And I know there's all these different opinions and perspectives on hope is fake or whatever, and like whatever, but I just think it helps, It's like if you get someone that comes along and sort of like interrupts the blah of what's going on and helps you connect with who you are and makes a difference in your life, that's great. And that's the thing, man. It's like you can only do so much, but it does feel good to do something, I guess.
I think that's, I think it's important to say, and we can probably wrap it up here, is that, it's not just about putting clothing on someone's back. It's not just about providing a meal for someone who's going hungry. It's not about, providing warmth for someone who's freezing, on the streets. It's about, lending an ear, and
Yeah.
you, like you said, like there is no replacement for communication and empathy and conversation and vulnerability. And that's, I think that's one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is giving them and allowing them the ability to feel open and willing and vulnerable, to you, because you've done the same to them. Because it opens up people in a way that they don't have to continue to shut things out or they can, and it can, you never know what, just having that open door. In a while, I think people are somewhat maybe afraid to open it. And I'll, if I'm being totally honest, there are days, that I'm like, man, like it'd be so much easier to like read all these comments and just not give a shit, cause it's hard, it can be heavy, but at the same time, when you watch and you get to participate and you get to, like, I feel like my 90 days in treatment was like, the degree that I needed to be the best coach I could be, because it taught me to like help me deal with emotions and be, and also be open and honest and vulnerable in a way that allows people and gives them the courage to share. And so if you don't think, that giving is right in a material way, that please don't ever underestimate the greatness and, the ability you have to change someone in their life and their moment and their attitude and their year by just making sure that they have the year, or that they have the ear for you, to listen to and to talk to. And, it's just, we can do a lot. And so don't ever underestimate, it doesn't have to be with money. It can be with your mind. It can be with your heart. It can be whatever it is. Don't underestimate the power that you have as an individual to, help in general. And so, I know Mike and I can attest to that. We started out the podcast this way, in terms of thanking you, our listeners. And, who knows if we'd still be doing this if, not a single solitary person, listened to us or hated us. And, it's been we'd probably be just still sitting at a coffee shop and we don't know where we'd live. It's just, it's interesting. Like, the way that, people give back and, people thank us a lot, for what we do in the podcast and the content and whatever. And, I think, we probably don't say it enough, but how much we get out of it, collectively as individuals, that we get to do this, and how much it connects you and I together. And the emails that we get, like there's not a job on the planet I can think of that would energize me, and make me feel as grateful as the one that we have with our listeners and our even the Facebook community, and then our athletes especially. It's just like, it's one of those things where, I know I'm a better person having this in my life than I would be without it. And it's even, I think, a very huge part of my recovery, and helping me, stay sober the last, 7 years, is having a community like this with so many amazing people that are so kind and generous and loving and supportive. It's very, very, very humbling. And I know you and I are both very, very grateful to be able to be a part of it.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree. I feel weird even mentioning the club right now, but I'm going to do it.
You know what?
I think it's just,
I don't think you should, because listen, we suck at marketing and we suck at doing things the way people probably want us to do. But, there are a lot of ways that you can help people. And I do sincerely believe that one of the ways that we do help people is providing them access to, through training and through our community. It is, I think, a form of outreach that we do. So I hope you don't feel guilty anymore.
No, I don't. I guess I don't feel. In fact, I was talking to somebody about this this weekend. I grew up my professional life has been mainly about marketing, and so I understood it, and I know what it does and whatever. And so I get it. We both get it, but we're kind of like purposely unmarketing a lot of times, I think. And it's just because we want to be more genuine. It's like, you don't need us to like trick you into doing something. We've got a club program where I'm overseeing it, and there's a lot of community benefits and connective pieces in there. But the main gist of it is we design your training plan for the whole next year based around your races, and kind of take that off your plate, and we look at where you're at and where you want to go, and we, do the best of designing a custom plan for you for the year. And we think it's a good deal. So check that out at C26Triathlon.com. Under the coaching tab, go down to the club, and our full-time coaching stuff is there too. So if you want to check that out, do it. C26coach@gmail.com.
Yep, that's me.
And
need anything or have any questions about coaching camps, reach out.
And I'm crushingiron@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of us. So, all right.
Well, that's what we got. We're gonna go hold each other and cry for a minute, and then we'll be back on Thursday. Merry Christmas.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it, man.